of time intone the words, "Thou art mortal." Now the purpose of this was to remind the man in whom such great powers resided that he too was, after all, only a man, and as such, mortal. When we're young, we tend to think of life as never-ending. Time for us stretches off limitlessly into the future. But as we get older, even in our 40s, which should be a time of vigor, interest, and activity, really a time of young maturity, we begin to get from time to time small reminders of our mortality. Or it might be a sudden shortness of breath, or a perfectly normal twinge in the chest, a bit of back trouble. But we get these occasional reminders that time is not, after all, standing still for us, that we, like the Caesars of old, are indeed mortal. To the neurotic, this sort of reminder fills him with dread and plunges him into even deeper depression. But to the fairly normal, reasonably well-adjusted person, this comes as a reminder to enjoy to the fullest the time that is remaining. That days are not things to be waited through until Saturday or a birthday or Christmas, but rather to be savored and enjoyed one by one, hour by hour. We come to an understanding that to kill time, as we so aptly put it, is really nothing more than to kill a little part of ourselves, since time is all we have. It reminds us too, or at least it should, to be more patient, more tolerant of others, particularly those we love. If we're mature enough to love anyone, it means exactly that. And it reminds us to follow our hunches and obey our sudden impulses, especially those which involve a kind word or a pat on the back or a sign of tenderness. Those we love, as well as ourselves, are only passengers for the journey's duration. So let's let them know we enjoy sharing it with them. And if we don't always enjoy it, let's fake it. Let's pretend we do. After all, the trip really isn't all that long. I saw a newspaper picture not long ago of a woman of 75 ice skating. It reminded me that 75 is only old to people under 60. To people 75, it's a good, thoroughly enjoyable age, and maybe we'll all live to be 85 or 95, and maybe we won't. In any case, there is a limit, and there should be, or it wouldn't be there. And since there is, why not relax a little? Not take things too seriously. And as an old friend of mine once said, in a life where death is inevitable, never worry about anything. Sure, it's easier said than done. I remember reading a story about an old man who was planting a young tree in his yard. His neighbor hailed him and said, "What are you planting the tree for? You'll never live to see it grown." And the old man calmly went on with his planting and said, "I believe you have to plan on dying tomorrow or living forever." Well, I'm not planning on dying tomorrow. George Santayana once wrote that there's no cure for birth and death save to enjoy the interval. There's no cure for birth and death save to enjoy the interval. You know, it's being reminded of something like that which can shake a person up a little bit. About how much time we waste and unhappiness we bring on ourselves by worrying about the future and reliving in our minds the mistakes of the past. One of the neatest tricks in the world is to learn to enjoy the present, since the present is the only time we'll ever own. Distance is no longer a serious obstacle due to modern means of travel, but time remains unconquerable. It cannot be expanded, accumulated, mortgaged, hastened, or retarded. It's the one thing completely beyond man's control. And while the supply of time is certainly limited for anyone, generally it's squandered as though there's no end to it. The man on the commuter train, bored, waiting to get home, then waiting for dinner, then waiting to go to bed or for a particular television program, and he thus spends his time slightly behind reality, waiting for something that's coming up. And while it'll keep him going, he never or seldom learns to enjoy the time he's using right now. But what it takes seems to be an awareness of living. It means being aware that you're alive at this moment, and that the world and people are interesting enough at any time, so that we needn't waste so precious a thing as time in boredom. If we know where we're going in the future, we can do our work the best we can, give it everything we've got, and we don't need to worry about it or the future. And as for reliving our mistakes of the past, this is the easiest advice on earth to give, and probably the most difficult on earth to follow. Everybody knows that it's perfectly useless to relive in our minds the dumb stunts we've pulled in the past. But this doesn't keep us from doing it. And again, according to the experts, the solution may be found in living for the present and enjoying it as much as we can. Now, this does not mean that we should not plan for the future. We should. But once our plans are laid, fine. Work on them, but don't stew and fret over them. All we will ever have is today. Yesterday is gone forever. can never be recalled, and tomorrow really never comes. If we find it difficult to enjoy the day in which we're living, we should remember that what we're waiting for will be made up of the same kind of days we're getting now. Frequently, a person who's unhappy by nature will believe that when something happens in the future, such as marriage, a better job, more money, or whatever it happens to be, that he'll suddenly be a happy person. But the facts don't bear that out. If we're living in the past, or worrying, or hoping for happiness in the future, the best thing we can do is ask ourselves, how am I doing with the days I'm getting right now? How am I doing today? It's not how much we have, but how much we enjoy that makes happiness. Try that business of being aware of the present and its possibilities, and the chances are you'll enjoy it. The head of a great corporation died in his New York office of a heart attack. Later, when it came time to clean out his desk and collect his personal effects, a hand fishing line wrapped on a stick, complete with bobber, sinker, and rusted hook, was found in his bottom desk drawer. It was probably the one he'd used as a small boy on the farm in the Midwest. Had that relic of younger carefree days represented his real dream of what living was all about? He had gone to school, found a job, got married, worked hard, purchased a home on the installment plan and the other niceties of living. Children had come along, and there was their education to think about. There were the promotions that came from hard work and native ability and the passing of the years. There were the clubs and civic things, the professional associations, the crises on the job and at home. And finally, the top job with a company that...
I don't know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. But this is my wireless security cam that's had it on the roof that night.
The kids are out of school to manage themselves now, but it all happened so fast, with no real plan of any kind. It had been school, then job, then work, then promotions, and family and income problems, and suddenly, there he was on top of the pile. And rummaging in his things in the attic of the basement one day...
Can I see your chats? I can't see your chats yet. But if you're chatting... Are you in a watch party?
He had sat there and remembered that cool little creek with the summer smell of it, and that green moss along the bank, and the frogs popping into the water, and the water bugs...
Because if not, I'm thinking...
He remembered the excitement of seeing that bobber suddenly disappear, the frantic tug of the fish on the line.
By the way, Restream is what I use. If you could hear me, let me know that too. Restream is what I use so that I use OBS. This is my web camera too, by the way. Like, this motherfucker, and it's out here like it's 250-inch TVs now for sure. There's that one. Here's this one. And I guess, and I mean, I can take it and do all the things where. You know, I don't know how that looks really from that end. I played my best round of golf this Sunday. Yesterday was it Sunday? I hit 9 out of 11 putts from outside of 30. And like, made me feel like I was good for the first time all year because I haven't been good. But I'm assuming you can hear me then. Mixer, I got suspended. I don't know if I was cussing or if I was smoked in the dark or some shit. I don't know. I didn't do nothing different for none of these. Mixer, I guess I got suspended when I was playing on the Xbox, playing PUBG with in a 4 people kind of thing. But see, if I do it like this, I think I have that. Or I would. Alright, so you know I'm back on your screen. You can hear me?
They often fail to enjoy life even during the years that they were living it most fully. And it seems
I just did Discord.
Fullest years of their lives fail to develop an awareness of living, an enjoyment of the living. It's like the person who puts the best china and silver and linen away for some future time, or very special time, and dies before any of it's ever used. Or it's like
not really sure if I can verify it yet. Like if you hear me talk, it would be audio input. What about maybe that? Okay. Alright, so then the audio input device needs to be PNP. Alright, so you can hear me now, I say, right? Damn, I've been talking to myself. this should be.
I just got Discord.
I don't know. I don't think I can answer you. I'll call my phone.
I remember even in a crowd of a famous show business personality wanted a quick cut. Who, as she made the announcement of her impending $1.5 million, said, after all these years, I'm
Boss up. There's a boss, y'all, right there. That's a boss. That's why I run my own company, so I can be a boss. Just like that. Got me fucked up. Be nice, Josh. Alright, I know you can hear me. I'm not sure if it's just a me and you thing. I'm just trying to figure out what chat is. We can try it.
a man prominent kidnapping for months. His mind just filled with the thought that the $1 million ransom he was going to get, more important to him, he thought at the time, than anything else on earth.
I said, now let's start a watch party.
He dropped his suitcase containing
I have Discord.
Just got Discord. There's a boss, y'all, right there. That's a boss.
Stay on this page. So I want to say watch party, and you come in here, then people can chat over here like. And then I would, like one time I normally, when I talk to my sister or a few people sometimes, I'll go into the room like that and just make it private and fight just then. Yeah, I know that it ain't nobody here but us. I don't know. There you go, Jonathan. I mean, yeah, mate. Woo! I hit that bad boy. Oh! And you can come in here. Woo! And that's what I played this weekend. It's Henry Horton off at Interstate 65. People chat here like. Tree fell earlier this year.
Why do I want it? Am I making the best possible use of
Yeah, like one time I normally, when I talked to my sister, all at the beginning, many moons ago. Haha, look at that, look at that. That's the only one I got left, homie. That's the only one I got. I got all that shit right there. Right here, the rest. That stuff's coming. No, I have these. This shit right here I have, this from here. Another old setup, that's an older one. I don't know. Let you see this. Where's he at? There he is, right there. See that? Oh yeah, there he is too. Yeah, boy. How you think you feel about that picture? Uh-huh. This motherfucker gets all the way up here, like. There you go, Josh. These are old. I change it every week. Very big. I mean, yeah, mate.
Some 4,500 years ago,
Here's Tank. Where's Tank? Oh, here's Tank. Come here. Hey, you wanna go outside? Come here. Let's go. I'm gonna take my dog out. Let's take this monster out. He just got beat up yesterday, John. Tree fell over his chair.
Look well, therefore, to this one day, for it, and it alone, is life. But that one quality, for us, might make it the best gospel used